Facebook Live. We have my good friend Maddie, my good friend Rita. How you
Hello,
girls doing
hello.
tonight?
Doing pretty good.
Amazing.
Are we excited or what?
Yes. Yes. I
That
promise I
that didn't
am.
sound very exciting.
So I'll just give you guys the scoop of today was the first day since my surgery that I put in some miles and my body is like, no.
Your body's just
Oh
shutting down.
no.
Yeah, I did 3 miles and the people that know me really well are like, you only did 3 miles. I'm like, I know.
Look, 3 miles is great. I was just telling the girls before we started. I just literally had a steak and cheese that I stuffed like a cartoon character, like one bite as I woke up from a nap. So I'm like in a food coma over here, slash like still food coma slash half asleep. You know, because I don't get to come home too often and get a little break. You know, that's my routine, a little nap, and then. So, how are we doing tonight?
I just had therapy, so I'm good.
Okay. That's always a good thing, right? So you went from therapy, now you're in another therapy right here.
Well, and Maddie also had a fun afternoon at like 3:45 that I did not get to partake in, but I'm
You
I'm
hit
excited for her.
Yeah.
you hit the gym today?
I went to get assessed for a personal trainer, and it was good. It made me really realize how out of shape I am, but I'm excited to get started.
It's like anything else, right? You have to start, right? You have to put the work in, and you have to start somewhere though. You have to get it in your head that hey, I'm going to start today. Today's the day. So it's all good. It's
Well,
all
I used to work out every day, and what I found was when I worked out every day, I didn't have my mental health symptoms. It was better than any pill or therapy I could ever do.
yeah.
And then when I started grad school and up the nonprofit and started working and all the things, I was like, oh, I don't have time for this. And then the symptoms came. So now I've got to do something to change my life.
When life got life in, right as they say.
Yeah.
You know, that goddamn thing we call life got in the way.
Yeah, but it was funny because Maddie messaged me like a week ago. I was on the treadmill when she messaged me, and I was like, I think you should do the mud run with me, and she was like, sure.
I can't do a mud run right now, but I'm gonna get there.
Yeah, you'll be
You
ready for May. You're gonna do
you
amazing.
yeah, you got nothing to worry about. You'll have fun. That's all that matters, right?
Rita,
Having fun.
Re, Rita had me lifting weights and doing the rower and everything on Monday night.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Rita's
You
been
did.
pushed behind so much.
Yeah,
After I
Rita's
talked to her
great.
last night, whew, I sort
Rita
of
is
Yeah.
felt
great.
bad eating that big sandwich, after listening to Rita last night. It's like, shit, she's going to put me into shape. She's going to get me into boot camp, going to get my ass going, right?
Oh yeah. Well, when you come to visit, don't worry. Like you can have like a full day with Katie. You go home and be like, I lost 15 pounds.
I'm going to find some nice you got to show me where the barbecue places are down there,
Oh yeah.
Okay. We
right?
can help you with that. We can help you with that.
So tonight, right, we're going to talk about the stigmas, right? Stigmas when it comes to mental health. And I think one of the biggest things, right, is that we have to get to the top of the mountains, right, and scream from there without fear of
Yes.
people looking at us awkwardly or that we're weird and that we're not monsters either, right? Because we have mental health issues. We're all humans, and I think with the help of you two as well, we're gonna have a great chat tonight. But we're also gonna talk about stigmas, right? Stigmas that affect us, why we don't talk up, why we may stay silent, maybe sometimes why we isolate ourselves because of the stigma, right?
Yeah, it was funny because going into this tonight, I actually had an interaction earlier this morning. I went to our local library. They're doing like a heart health month thing this month, and meeting with the library manager. I, I've never I've never really processed how dumbfounded people look when I talk about things. And I told her, I was like, I'm really excited to do this. And, these are the other things that I can offer the library. Like I do mental health first aid and I do QPR. And she was like, well, I don't really think our staff really needs that. Like we don't deal with that. And I said,
What?
well, Yeah, and I said, so the library doesn't have any like homeless people coming in, or you don't have anybody looking for like community. So it's a little bit different. Randolph County has like assigned community navigators. Apparently, Guilford County does not. And so talking to her, I was like, yeah, like you can't tell me that you don't have people coming into the library in some kind of crisis. And she was like, well, sometimes we do. And I'm like, not sometimes, a lot of times. But
Okay, let me just stop you there because I used to be peer support in Greensboro, and that's where I took a lot of my clients. And I
mhm,
saw a lot of people I knew in mental health crisis who spent their days at the library, and they
yeah,
had a lot of issues with clients who had bad behaviors because of their mental health in that same library.
I know. I know. So that was the thing, is like talking to her and everything and explaining like what we can do and what we can offer. I think that she kind of started to see the light, and she was like, I will be messaging you about veteran stuff and mental health stuff. And so like making that conversation happen really helps, because now she's like, okay, well, I'm the new manager of the library, and these are things we need to look at. So it was a good morning.
Oh, that's awesome. But it seems like she was just more like just oblivious, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
The
the
thing
people,
is
you know?
people are just not educated. They don't know. And what you
Yeah.
don't know, like, it's not your fault. You just don't know.
No, no, that's true. And you often think like everybody should know, right? But some people just living, and that's one of the things that I think where I got to notice a lot of the mental health was, when you're unhealthy, right? You everything's bouncing off the walls and you're trying to pretend everything's okay and keep your world together and your life together, right? And you don't even know the half the times, sometimes the things you're doing, right?
Hmm.
And some people like that, like talking to that lady today at the library, you said it seems like she's just been able to like insulate herself and be in her own little world, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, that's powerful in a way, but it's like, like you said, Maddie, you've been to the library and that's where a lot of people go.
Oh,
A lot of
yeah.
people,
Yeah.
So one of the things I was looking at today was about women, right? And women juggle emotional labor, right? Caregiving, workplace harassment, burnout, anxiety spikes. Stigma makes them question if it's real or if they're overreacting, right? So the two of you, how many times has someone said to you like, "Oh, it's your hormones," or "It's this," or just giving you bullshit excuses,
Yeah. I
you
mean,
know?
we talked about that last night. Like, they were talking about, oh, like your back pain is from your hormones. No,
Yeah.
no, it's not. um,
I'll talk about my mental health symptoms, and they're like, "Are you sure you're not perimenopausal?" No, I'm not perimenopausal. I have mental illness. Get over it.
yeah.
And it's real, you know?
Yeah.
It is
See, and I
real.
I am perimenopausal, so it's just like so much worse.
I kind of dread menopause, if I'm going to be real about it. I'm a little worried about that one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you saw the post on my Facebook, Maddie, where I was like aggravated with the door, and I just like took the door off the wall. That was my breaking point yesterday. And my husband still has not hung the door back up.
Uh-oh, he's gonna be in trouble. You're gonna be cracking the whip on him. Get that
Oh,
door up.
bless his heart. Like, and that's the thing too, is so it's crazy. So as women, we complain that like people don't talk about our mental health, but then like we don't talk about men's mental health either.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
And I it was hard. So one of the things when my husband got home from the Coast Guard, I wanted so hard to punch him in the face, because he said something to me when he got home, and he was like, you don't know what it's like to have your service time cut short because of a physical injury. And I was like, dude, I literally went through the exact same thing. But like in the moment, he wasn't thinking about it. He was just realizing like how hurt he was that this avenue of his life didn't happen.
Yeah.
And it was hard for him, but I was not the one he needed to talk to. He needed to talk to somebody else. And thankfully, he found that with other veterans and friends of ours. But it was hard because from like a provider standpoint, like of course ethically we're not supposed to treat our spouses. But then it's also like it's too close to home. Like, I can't be your therapist and be your wife. Like, it doesn't mesh well.
Yeah.
But sometimes I feel like with men, it's so hard. So Oh, I feel bad calling out my husband so much. So I accidentally sent him to the hospital. I have really bad when I wake up, I'm extremely combative. Like if I get startled out of my sleep, like I'm ready to go. And the dog dropped a bone off the side of the bed and it scared me out of my sleep. So when I come up out of my sleep, he came up out of his sleep. And at first, like I'm thinking I hit him, but no, I actually like sent him into a panic attack. And we ended up going to the hospital because he's like, I don't know if I'm having a heart attack or what. He was having a panic attack because I scared him so bad. But when I look at the statistics, and we've talked to people at Randolph Health and like our mental health collaborative meetings, they've talked about how like the percentage of men that go to the emergency room because they think they're having a heart attack and they're not. They're actually having a panic attack, an anxiety attack, like because men are just taught to suppress.
Yeah.
Men are more likely to die by suicide. Women are more likely to attempt, but men are more likely to die. And it's that stigma, like we're talking about, like be a man, toughen up, men don't
Toughen up,
cry, like all this bullshit that you hear they put on men. Men are
Yep.
human too. Men have mental health too. Men have feelings too, and they need a way to get an outlet for it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a healthy outlet, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another one. A lot of men, it comes out as anger because they're not always taught how to process these things. That's something I worked on with my husband. He was anxious or something, but it portrayed as frustration and anger. So we've had to work a lot. Maybe I am a little bit of his therapist, but I feel like I need statements. You're not really angry, you're anxious. Like, here's a coping skill. Stop yelling.
Yeah. And those are things, right, that I've learned over the last 7 months, looking back at certain, um, certain relationships I've had in my marriage that's gone, and how my anxiety, right, and my depression manifested itself out. And that was one of the biggest things for me was when I would just lash out at those that I love, and that was the hardest part, to be able to have a healthy mind, be healthy now, and to look at it and say, wow, like that was my role in it, of my anxiety and my depression. Because we were talking about it last night. Once you get a hold of your mental health, it's powerful. It's powerful when you come out on the other side and you see like how many people deal with it. And that, as a man, one of my biggest pride that I talk about is I'm able to talk about it. I come on the podcast and talk about it. And I think it opens the door for other guys to be like, hey, it's okay to talk. And it is,
Yeah.
it's normalizing the conversation, right? Checking in with
I
people
think
genuinely.
I think it's important to have these conversations and normalize these kinds of things. Like, I didn't meet anybody like me, or I had never heard of anybody like me until I went to a day treatment program. And I still struggle to find people like me because society thinks people like me are supposed to be on disability and live with their parents and all these things. And that's just not the case with me. So I think that's another reason I'm so vocal with as much as I am, to show the world that just because we have schizoaffective doesn't mean we can't accomplish anything we want to accomplish. And there's nothing wrong with me talking about it, as much as some people like to say. There's mental health is the same as physical health. Why can't I discuss things like diabetes and cancer, but I can't discuss my mental health?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think some people too are afraid, right? They're afraid not of who you are, right, Maddie? But they're afraid because they're like, I've never had this conversation before. But it's all right to be able to sit there and hold space for somebody and listen to them talk about what it's like to live with it, how you deal with it, right? Because you're educating them as well.
I think it can be a scary conversation, especially the way things like schizophrenia and bipolar, just because that's what it is, it's schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. And I think the media has really taken this and run with it and portrayed people like me in a very negative light.
Yes.
People, when I say that, they're like, oh, are you going to scream at me and then cry for the bipolar aspects? And then they think I'm going to like murder them for the schizophrenia aspect. And I think that's another reason I am so vocal, because I am educating that just because you have a diagnosis like this doesn't mean we're inherently violent, we're overly emotional. Like, we can regulate ourselves very well most of the time.
Yeah, and you could be a productive member of society, right? You
Exactly.
can have a great support group that you have and help others, right? Like, I bet you if you, people came into your support group and you didn't tell them your story, they would be like, oh, Maddie has it all together. She's great. And she's all that. And then you're like, sit down. Let me tell you. Let me tell you what
I
I deal
think
with. And then they'd be like, you know?
I think that's been a journey for me is like what I do share because I'm very good at talking about the past. I'm very good about talking about my diagnosis. But what I don't always publicize is that I still have symptoms. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not perfect. I'm not cured. There's no cure for this. And I'm trying to get to a point where I can openly talk about that. I kind of put this pressure on myself for so long to feel like I have to be perfect and symptom free. But that's just not the reality for people like me. So I'm trying to get more comfortable with like, yes, I'm Maddie, I do all these things, but at night when I go home, this happens. And it's
Yeah.
okay too. It doesn't mean I'm still not successful.
Exactly. And I think too, Maddie, one of the things I could be answering the question for you, but I could be wrong. But I think it's also awareness now, right? Like before, you probably couldn't be aware of those symptoms that were coming on and what was happening, right?
Yes,
Now you can sort
I
of,
do.
be
Yeah.
aware of it, right?
I have to have a ton of self awareness or it's going to spiral and get out of control.
Yeah.
Like, it's about using coping skills, talking about it when I don't feel well, nipping things in the bud, using my support team. Thanks to Rita, now exercise.
Yeah.
Like, it's about this whole scope of life and thinking 3 steps ahead. And I definitely had this bad habit for most of my life of not talking about it or recognizing it until it was a crisis, but that never ended well. So maybe with my support network, I'm a little too aware and alert them a little too much, but I think it's better than the opposite.
Yeah, that was me like in my personal life, right? I would do the same thing. I would just pretend I'm okay, but then it would just spiral out of control, right? And just until I hit rock bottom, and then it would be I'm crawling into bed at the end of the day, showering in the morning, maybe, and headed off to work and just repeating that cycle, right? And
Right.
and not talking or not, you know, not being able to just openly talk and even like, up until 8 months ago, even to openly talk about my feelings and how I'm feeling or how today is. And people, I always people the thing for me was people would always ask, "Hey, how you doing?" "I'm okay. I'm okay." And that was the simple answer.
Yeah.
Right? Until I learned now one of my biggest things is like, "Hey, you okay?" Yeah, and then I look at them and I'll say, "Hey, you really okay? What's good? Like, what's going on? What's bothering you?" You know? Because people will the second time around, people will actually be like, hey, they'll either one where I am in Boston, they'll tell you to fuck off, right? They'll tell you to screw, or they'll just be like, I'm having some problems, and that's when you sit there and you hold space and you listen to them, right? You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. And that's the thing is like with both of us, I feel like we've we've tried to really push that in this area where we don't have many providers. There's like we talked about last night, there's this stigma that like my clientele in particular worry about of like, well, if I say that I've got this going on, like, is it going to stop me from carrying my basic rights? And like in the South, like that's huge. Um, and so it's been a challenge, like getting my veterans especially to open up because one thing I even ran into, and so as somebody who's never deployed, like the only time I've ever been in a fire situation was literally when I worked in High Point. Somebody shot at the dealership I was working at as they drove by. I'm like, never been in a combat zone, but it was automatically assumed, and it stopped me from getting jobs because people were like, oh, she's military, she's probably got PTSD, and I'm like, I do not, but thank you. Yeah. And so it's hard because then my veterans are like afraid to admit that they're military, and then they're afraid they have a mental health disorder because it might stop them from getting the basic needs in life, finding a job, having stable housing, and it's like it just spirals.
Yeah, and like you were saying, Rita, right? I can't think of like when you say about the veterans, right? Like their biggest things is like they're gonna come and take my guns if I talk about it, and that's things you don't think of, right?
Mhm.
As just up here in Massachusetts, like guns isn't a big thing, right? But down there it is, and that's holding them back for fear of, hey, they gotta come take my guns, and then what's next? They're gonna take some of my benefits, they're gonna take me away, and then they're gonna lock me up in a room, and I'm gonna be stuck there, right?
Yeah. And especially too, like I won't lie, like a lot of my veterans, like they're hunters, like that's how they provide for their family. And so for them, like, they're like, they might take away this thing that puts literally food on the table. And it's like, and so it's something they start with this little thing. And like you said, I had an incident about 2 years ago that I don't think that anybody was ever prepared for the reaction that happened. But I had a veteran that was involuntarily committed and very wrongfully, because he went to the VA and said, I'm struggling. I'm still dealing with these suicidal ideations. I'm not suicidal right now, but I'm having these problems. Like, I need to talk to somebody. And an hour later, they handcuffed him and they took him off to a hospital. And he's like, that's not what I'm here for. And the family called me and I was like, I am on it. And I went to the hospital and I talked to the doctor, who I thankfully found out was Army. And I was like, this is what's going on. This is what we need to do. And so that doctor did everything in his power to get him released. But like, I was ready to go toe to toe with whoever was in my way for this veteran, because I'm like, he came seeking help and you didn't know how to help him. So you just handcuffed this guy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're so lucky that he did not like react in a negative way, because this is a combat veteran. Like, this is not the person to piss off.
Yeah.
But that was the day I got my new nickname. I went from the butterfly to the chihuahua, because my dad was like, you are tiny and cute and you will fight anybody.
Well, Reader, and it shows, right, that here he is, right? And if you weren't there to help him out and get him out of that whole situation, right, he probably would never seek help ever again.
Exactly. And that was the thing I told the doctor when I found out who the provider was who did it. I went to their boss and I was like, if your provider like has screwed this up for this person to continue to seek care, like, I'm going to send this veteran to an attorney for malpractice. Like, I was not going to back down.
Yeah.
Come to find out, a few weeks later, the head of mental health had called me and he was like, that doctor got fired because apparently that was not the first veteran this happened to. And I'm like, we need to have better care. And if you don't know how to handle those situations, especially with combat veterans, that is not for the place for you to be. And that's why we have such a huge turnover rate of providers in the VA, because they are not prepared to hear the stories that are about. Sometimes I'm not prepared.
Yeah.
And I have to like recenter. But like, if that's the population you choose to work with, like, we need to be better.
Yeah, I can imagine, right? I've had a few veterans on and they talked about being overseas and serving, and it's like, even as just a podcaster, and they're telling me, and I'm literally like, I don't even know what to say. You know what I mean? Like, they're going through so much overseas, and it's just to think they come back stateside and all of a sudden they're thrown in jail because they're seeking help.
Yeah,
it's absurd.
Yeah.
It's absurd. So, and I think one of the things too, right, I love to talk about is 988, right? It's such a great tool
Yeah.
to use. And people always tell me, like, you're always talking about it like you promote it or something. I go, I do. I openly do. Like, to me, it was a lifesaver at 2, 3 in the morning. I don't have anybody to talk to. And look, this isn't for people out there that like you're bored and you have nobody to talk to. This is like when you're in a crisis and you have to, right? So I did, and I had some of the greatest conversations and ended up, going to bed at 3 in the morning after talking for an hour. And they have no rush. They don't rush you. You can text or call it 988, and there's always somebody there.
Yeah.
They'll talk to you, they'll hear you, and they'll have conversations with you, or they'll just listen to you. So for anyone out there that doesn't feel, that feels like they can't talk to anybody, they don't have a safe place, they don't have a safe person they can talk to, 988, and it's totally anonymous. It's not like you're going to call and then they're going to call you back and say, hey, we're coming to get you to take you away. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
And in North Carolina, there's the Warm Line, which is run by peers. Say you just want to talk. Say maybe you're not to the point that you need to call 988, but you need that you're isolated or you're having a symptom. You can call for free the 1-800 number for the Warm Line, WARM, and it is run by peer support, and it is a great resource.
Oh, wow, that's powerful. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's in North Carolina, yeah.
And I love with 988 too, like, there's different tiers, right? So like, if you're a veteran, you can talk to a veteran peer, like somebody a peer. If you're a teenager, they have an option for teenagers and kids in crisis. Like, And I really love that they have that. And I love too, like our 911 call center in Randolph County is amazing because they have been so good about, like, if somebody calls and they're in crisis and they don't know about 988, they make sure that it's a warm handoff and that they're on the phone with that person, making sure they're getting another human. They're not just sending them off into the great beyond.
Yeah.
Because that's crucial too. Like when they call 911, you know,
Whose dog's that? Are you, Maddie?
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay. That just makes the podcast even better. You know?
They're wrestling. They're having
Don't worry,
a good
I called
time.
988 and they're at the door. The cops are here with the dogs. They're coming to take me out now. You know, it sounds better that way, right?
Yeah.
That's them outside. We're holding them at bay. We're going to finish the podcast first.
Yeah, I told my husband, I'm like, come get the cat. She's under the bed. And I'm texting him while I'm talking to you guys.
So Rita, that's like a big thing, right? Because I think people think too with mental health, with it's a one size fits all, right? When it comes to mental health. So with 988, I know it's one for veterans, and the great thing about that is separating it from, so who they can put you in contact with.
Yeah.
Instead of just being like, okay, this is just a regular person. So I think when you do call, because when I called, I forget what I pressed, but they, with the veterans, it's probably someone that can deal with veterans, someone that can deal with teens, which is awesome because, that's one of the big things too about breaking the stigma is, building the safe places, right?
Well, and you should have that specialized care for what you need. Like it was about this time last year, I want to say, when they were talking about getting rid of the option for the L+ community. And like, that's not okay. They need support too. Like,
well,
and you should.
The Trevor Project stepped up on that one.
Yes.
They did, because they did do away with that. And if you are looking for an organization to donate to, the Trevor Project is amazing. They highly support our LGBTQA community. So shout out to them.
And who took that away? Was that a North Carolina thing?
That was a federal government.
A federal.
Yeah.
It was a funding thing. And the thing is like, mental health is not the thing they need to be defunding. Like, that's where they need all the support. And the thing is like, regardless if you agree with somebody's lifestyle, they're still a human being and they still need support and kindness. So it was like, no, you need to bring this back. And it's the same with like the senior community. They're like, well, we haven't had as many seniors calling in, so we're thinking about changing things. And I'm like, it doesn't go away. So like here, we just pulled the statistics. And so our numbers of elderly suicide are through the roof. And so when they went back and they looked like what was going on, one of the things is they can't afford to like live. And so in their mind, like, this is the only option. I can't afford to buy groceries or have housing. And, these people have worked their whole lives. Now they're 65, 70 years old. And they're like, I can't afford groceries. And so they see no way out. Or if they get a diagnosis and they know they have all these terrible medical bills heading their way. And it's like, we're supposed to take care of our elderly.
Yeah. And I think, like you said, right, the elderly. And I think one of the things that it comes to too is that, a lot of times isolation sets in, right, at an older age, whether whether you're at home or whether you're, say you live with your, daughter or son, they may have to go off to work and there's nobody at the house, or sometimes you go to a nursing home, right, and you can be isolated because, you don't want to deal with anybody there. Or so isolation can be tough because I said it to you, Maddie, and I said to you, Rita, last night, I've been in rooms with hundreds of people where I've still felt alone, right?
Yeah. Me too.
Yeah.
People will be like, you okay? And it's just like, just give them a nod, like, like, leave me alone. But, if they really were like, hey, what's up? What's wrong? I would, okay, let's talk then,
Well,
I think that's one reason why I'm so advocate for building communities with Janie as a work group. Like, a place where you can feel safe with like-minded people, a place where you can be heard, a place to aid in ending that isolation. Like, yes, we're going to work on our mental health. What fun things can we do in the process? What kind of community can we build? Because where Rita and I live, it is very rural. There's not a lot of things going on. Yeah. It's not like you can just go out to the town, and it is very isolating. So I think that's one thing that drives me tremendously.
Yeah. Yeah. And so like, I feel like I'm kind of on the borderline between two counties. And so I feel really fortunate. We have a great American Legion post here for our veterans in High Point. Um, and it's kind of split in half because it is on the border. It's half Guilford, half Randolph. But I love that this particular post, when they got this new commander in, he's younger. And so he's trying to find ways to bring in more younger people. And so they do family movie night. You know, we do game night. We have bands come in because they're looking to build a community and a place where everyone feels welcome. There was another post I went and checked out, and they said that kids weren't welcome in the post. And I said, well, then I'm not welcome because if my family can't come, like, I'm not coming. I'm not going to leave my kid at home.
Yeah.
And so I love that this American Legion is so family oriented because a lot of your veterans my age and younger aren't going to go unless their kids can come. So like the communities are starting to build themselves and they're kind of figuring it out, but like where we are, I feel like there's a little bit of a disconnect with the older population is like, well, this is how we've done it for 100 years. And I'm like, yeah, but it ain't working anymore. And then your younger population is trying to come in and say, hey, how can we bridge this gap? And there's been some headbutting. But like I said, we've gotten really lucky with our new commander. He is top notch and he's worked really hard to bridge those gaps for us.
And that's big, you know, because some veterans, right? That's sort of their therapy for some veterans, right? Going to the VA and sitting with other guys that they've served with, or sitting with guys that served in, you know, Vietnam, and you know they share battle stories and stories that, you know, I'll never hear because I didn't serve, right? And but to be able to get that off their chest with somebody that knows what it's like to serve in a battle, you know, in battle, and those are great things. Like I the one we have here in Dorchester, I think, you know, they've been doing it over for years, but it was starting to turn around with, again, they had a younger kid that took over and started getting more people, you know, there and doing family things too. And that's a big thing, including everybody, you know,
Yeah, because
including everybody.
one of the things I feel like we run into a lot is so they do like a lot of veteran coffees, which sounds great, but like that's great if you're retired. Like I work. I can't go to a coffee at 9 a.m. because I have to be at work unless, you know, sometimes my job would send me, but I'm not getting that social environment. So one thing we've worked on is trying to find ways like, can we do like a barbecue dinner meetup at a place? And so we're trying to find different ideas in the community. Just we had at Thrive, we were doing a female veteran peer support group, and we'd all female veterans would come together and work out. Little things like that were making a big difference. But sometimes it's hard to get into these environments because they're catering to one group or another. So like within the veteran world, you still have those categories you still have to work through.
Yeah. Yeah, and for anybody listening, right, we're live on Facebook and wherever else. Riverside Live, me too, right? You know, we could be on CNN right now or MSNBC. Who knows? Right? I don't even know what the hell it is. So, you know, as I tell people, right, that's listening, we got Maddie on, Maddie Andrews. We got Rita Honeycutt. And I tell people, right, my push, I didn't have anything to do with I didn't have a mental health Monday. I didn't have anything, right? So I sit down, Maddie comes on the show and we talk, and all of a sudden it's like, boom, something clicks in my head. Maddie's like the furnace, right? And once she ignites that fire inside of you, it's like, okay, you know, and you may see her like sitting back, just doing her thing, but when she talks, it's powerful. It's like, all right, we're going to listen, right? You know, and that's the best part I loved. And it was like, you know what, Maddie, I'm doing Mental Health Mondays because of you, because of your story, because you're pushing me towards it. And it also got me to start looking at my, you know, I was looking at my mental health, but to you know, do a deep dive into it and all that. And so many things that came from it. Like I said, it's powerful. And we have this session tonight. We're talking about mental health because we want to break the stigma. And we were all on a Facebook, you know, group. And there's a couple other people that are going to join us hopefully in the future. I know one of the guys or girls was talking about a comic book that they do, you know, comic book, how they deal with their mental health. So we have, you know, so many people that I've never felt the love from a community in my life more than I have from the mental health community. Right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's powerful because it's like I just started the segment. I think I'm only on the 5th segment, so it was 5 weeks ago when I started this. And the support I've gotten, even like simple texts from people that I know that I work with that I never thought would listen to my show. They were like, "Hey, I listened, Monday. That was powerful. Like, you know, that really helped me out." And just to have that, it's like, wow, you know, it's powerful, and you don't think about it because oftentimes when you are in your mental health and you're having problems and issues, you're not able to see the good that you can do, right? You know, that pain into purpose almost of, hey, you know what? Because my anxiety and depression sometimes get the best of me, where you know the podcast keeps me going, because one of my biggest things is I just crawl into a hole, right? In that hole, I just keep digging and digging and digging and digging till, you know, I look at it and I'm like, I can't get out of this. I'm just crawling back into bed. You know what I mean? That's my big thing.
Yeah,
You know?
I know. Like when I met Maddie, I was like, oh, thank you, God, because I felt like I was battling by myself.
Yeah.
Like I kept having these conversations, and I'm like, I don't know how much more I can scream it from the rooftops. Like we did our community health assessment, and they've changed the objectives for our county of where they're going to like funding and support. And mental health was one of the things that they pulled. They said, we know, we need to work on substance use disorder, and we need to work on physical health. And I'm like, but mental health is still important. But I got
Yes.
asked by the person who like chairs that committee. She was very intentional when she asked me, because we had like commissioners and some heavy hitters in the room. And she said, Rita, do you feel like, from being the boots on the ground, the community is ready to deal with mental health? And I said, no, they're not ready. And so we don't have the support from the politicians. We don't have the support from the faith leaders. We don't have the support we need. I went to a meeting a couple months ago, and I met with over 30 different chaplains, parishioners, like any kind of faith-based leader that I could in the room. And I said, these are the things that we can offer. I can offer free mental health first aid, QPR. I can talk to some of my partners about ASSIST and all these different trainings. One person called me. That means 29 people in that room did not get the message. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. And we live in the Bible Belt. And I'm like, I need those people on board, but they weren't ready to listen. And I'm glad that she asked me that, because I was kind of glad I hurt some people's feelings that day. Because they need to know that the community is not ready to support each other the way we need.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think it is so tough to get people on board with it?
Because it's still not understood. Like when you think about mental health and psychology and the field of it, it's still pretty new.
Yeah.
And so people don't understand, but it's really not that hard to understand when you really think about it. Like we talked about last night. Like, okay, we live in North Carolina. Everything is fixed with a casserole dish.
Yeah.
If you know your neighbor was in, my neighbor literally just broke her leg a couple weeks ago. And so what do? I send over food as often as I can, and my daughter goes and checks on her while I'm at work. It's the same as somebody's having a mental health crisis.
Yeah.
They want snacks too, y'all.
Well, let me tell you, as somebody who was in a mental health crisis, who was bedridden, hallucinating, manic, my husband was changing my diapers. How many people brought me a casserole? A big old zero. I had very, very, very few, but shout out to those who did, people supporting me during that time. Most people in my life who say they love me ran because they were afraid. And I remember that. And even during my recovery from my lithium toxicity, I remember who turned their backs on me and didn't send me that casserole.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is it's no different. And that's what we try and explain to people. It is no different from a physical injury to a mental injury. It's still an injury, but people don't understand that. And that's why I try my best to get the word out there. Like we talked about last night. I'm not going to say get over your cancer. Why would I tell you to get over your depression? It's still eating away at you. And the thing is too, with mental health, it causes physical issues. Like there's been so many studies done that people that suffer from depression and anxiety, I can attest to this. My anxiety, when it gets bad, my migraines are unstoppable. Like I have to draw the curtains, ice pack my face. Like it is so bad. And then I started developing irritable bowel because I would get so anxious. My stomach was having problems. It's this vicious circle. And I'm like, it's still health. Mental health is still health, and we need to be supporting it just like you would anything else.
Yeah, Rita, that you just said that it like hit me in my head of anxiety, right? I never thought of it. I used to get these very strange, like left side, right side, back side, front side, like just targeted migraines, right? Where it would just be like where I would have to do the same thing, but it was different areas. And to think that, my anxiety was causing it, I never would even think that, until again, people were having the conversation to find out what stigmas we need to smash and even if we smash every stigma, right? I say it, we're still going to talk about it because it's still important, right?
Oh yeah.
Like Maddie, like you said, you're going through all that. You could count on a few people, right? And I think that's one of the hottest things you do realize in mental health, right? Is there's only going to be, right? And I'm just talking about family in general and friends. There's only going to be a handful of people there, maybe not even a handful, one or two that are going to be there to support you, right? But there's always that community, right? The community that we're building here, the community that you've built that, with your support group, with Rita, the support she's growing, right? Like I said, I've never felt the love from a community in my life more than I have with the mental health community. And it's been 5 weeks, and it's awe-inspiring to see, like you've been on with Pete, right, Maddie?
I do a podcast every week with Pete. We host Voice of the
Voice
Voiceless.
of the Voiceless. Pete's the best, right? And like,
Yeah.
I get on and Pete's just lit. He's just lit like a firecracker, and he goes off, and it's just like boom, 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 and it's just like, okay, like I love Pete.
We got to get you on with us.
I would love to. Pete's great. Pete's awesome. Pete is one
Pete's
that's
great.
done a lot of things. I think he said to me like his second season, or first season, he did 200 episodes.
He records every day.
Yeah, I'm like 200 people, Pete. Like you got to take a break. He's like, no, people are telling me I got to take a break for season 3, but I think I'm going to do 300 people. And I'm like, hey, But again, that's one of my things, right? I find my podcast as being my safe space, right? Where it's awesome, where you can get on, we can have people, we got YouTube tonight. We're going to have, we're going to make this a weekly thing when we can, hopefully we can get the whole group together that we have the thread with and talk with them. And I was a little confused. I think someone in there may have a podcast too. I think we all have a podcast, maybe.
Yeah, I think it's like a podcasting. It's like somebody reached out to me who I did their podcast with this idea, and then I added you guys, and I think they want a podcast, and I think we want a live, and I think we're just going to do a whole bunch of talking throughout the year.
Yeah. And that's the best part, just having the conversation. That's why I said tonight, like, hey, let's just do a live and let's just talk. Because it's great, right? It's great to be able to talk about it and great to be vulnerable, right? It's almost celebrating your vulnerability, right?
Yeah. I felt a little left out because I'm like, I'm the only one without my own show, y'all.
You got to get on that.
Oh, I just, it's a time thing right now. Like between the transferring over, like I said, between the two entities I'm working with and then, promoting the book, like I literally took a month off so I could promote this book. And Maddie's like, here's 15 podcasts to do. And I'm like, I got this.
Well, so Rita, here's the great thing, right? You have an open invitation and it probably goes for Maddie too. And I'm going to speak for Maddie and Pete, right? I'm going to speak for all three of us, as I like to say. You're always welcome to come on my show. Always.
Oh, yeah. No, I appreciate it. And I did record with Maddie and Pete a couple of weeks ago. I think you said the episode goes live this weekend.
Yeah.
And I'm super excited.
Saturday.
Okay. And I'm super excited.
Sorry.
Because we talked about things like how important for mental health nutrition and exercise were. And I'm like, yes, that's all encompassing. And like knowing that Maddie is on day 3 of her exercise journey and is already feeling better, I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
Let's go eat salads.
Like you said, it's like hand in hand, right? And you don't think about it, right? When I was almost 350 pounds at my heaviest, right? I've lost almost 100 pounds. And when I say this to people, thank you. And people look at me like I'm crazy when I talk about it. Like I used to work 100 hours a week, and this is no lie. I used to literally do this at my heaviest. I used to go to either breakfast. I used to go to either Wendy's, McDonald's, or Burger King for breakfast. So say I went to Burger King for breakfast, I went to Wendy's for lunch, and I went to McDonald's for dinner at my heaviest. Sometimes 7 days a week. So I was eating 21 meals of fast food for a couple of years and I'm like, why am I so big? It's like, no wonder why, right? And
I want to
my
know
mental
how
health
you
wasn't in
weren't.
the right place, so it was just, you know.
I want to know how you weren't broke.
Well, see, when it wasn't like a crazy like I would get like the double cheeseburger and a McChicken, right? It was like $4, but it's still like. Then I'm looking at it now, right, as I'm healthy, and I'm like, that's like 7,000 sodium, and I'm like, shit. No wonder why my blood pressure was through the roof and everything else. I'm just eating
Okay.
processed, like, you know.
Well, I've learned recently, like it's become cheaper to eat healthier.
Yeah.
So like one so my daughter and two of our friends, their sons, they all fence together. So when I take them to fencing, I typically feed everybody on the way there. And we stopped at McDonald's once and I was like, how is it $40 for the three of you? Like I didn't even get anything. So the following week, I took them to there's a little mom and pop place up the road, King's Barbecue. It's fresh food, it's veteran family owned, like it's
Yeah.
local, and it was half the price for more
That's
food.
crazy.
So I've really been pushing. I'm like, it's cheaper to meal prep and eat better now than I
Yeah.
mean, it used to be easy to go and get something off the McDonald's dollar menu. That is not the case anymore.
No, there's no more dollar menu. It's crazy, right? It's crazy. So, before we end, right? Before we go, we're gonna meet again, and I don't know who's gonna be on, but it definitely be Reader and definitely be Maddie. Definitely will be with us. Maybe we'll grab Pete. Pete has a solid schedule. I don't know what he's doing or who Pete's probably in the Oval Office with the president right now doing a podcast.
Oh, bless his
Pete's like, I
heart.
got this one on, I got that. Pete's always got somebody on, right? And I love that about Pete. I find like I relate to Pete like he's like my little brother, right? Like he's just so loving, right? Like when you get on the mic with him, you just want to like grab through the computer and give him a big hug, right? Because he's just the best, and he's probably one of the most vulnerable guys in being able to speak about it, and that was powerful to me to be like, wow, like to even sit there, and he opened up so much about everything when he sat with me and did my podcast, and it was like I was blown away at how much there was no filter. He was willing and able to share everything.
His primary show is called Pete versus Anxiety. So check that out and definitely check out Voice of the Voiceless.
Voice of the voiceless, right?
Yeah.
I was super excited when I
Reader
recorded
show coming soon.
when I recorded with them. He had asked me up front. He was like, I can black out your face. We don't need to use your name. And I'm like, no, go ahead and I'm ready to tell that story for the public. And
Yeah.
there's some people who aren't. And I loved that about his show, that you have the option to either be very public about it or very private. But
Yeah.
that way, people that might not want everybody to know their story, but they want them to at the same time, like it gives them that option of doing it anonymously. And I absolutely love that.
That's
Yeah,
so
Voice
powerful too, of
Voice
giving
of the
that option.
Voiceless is all audio. We record in video, but we don't play the video. And you have the option of remaining anonymous because there are people out here who want to get the message out there, but it's not safe for them to identify themselves. So that was the whole thought process behind Voices of the Voiceless.
Yeah, and you probably have more people, right, Maddie, that are willing and able to come on and talk anonymously because they don't want to be like, hey,
Yeah.
I'm Jimmy Leary from Boston. It's like, people from work are gonna hear it, people from here are gonna, and they're gonna judge you, right? And
Right.
but it's important to them enough to be able to speak out in anonymity, right? Because the way I do it is when people come on, I just tell them we flow through the regular podcast. And then at the end, if I feel like, hey, for Mental Health Monday, I say to them, are you okay with me putting this on the segment for Mental Health Mondays? And some people are like, I don't see myself that way. And I'm looking through the questions and I'm like, yeah, you may not see yourself that way, but there's definitely, you could go in that category, but we'll put you on Saturday mornings for the kids and everybody else, we'll keep you off Mental Health Mondays. So, but I have so much fun doing it, and especially tonight with the 2 years. So before we go, right, I like to say one of my newest things is stigma, right? It dies when we talk. One conversation chips away.
Yes.
One check-in saves a life, right? That's my newest thing, right?
Yes. I love it.
So I think we have to get together. We have to talk, whether it's every day. I mean, Rita gets to do it every day. She gets to advocate for the vets and do her job, which is powerful, right? And Maddie, same with you. You get your support group, you get your job, everybody that I talk to, everybody's doing great things, right? And I look at it, right? And I'm still like, how the hell is this still a stigma? You know?
Right.
You know? we're willing, we're able to talk about it. And again, the crazy thing, like you had just said about anonymity, right? The people that have texted me are people that I never thought in my life would text me and be like, "Hey, I listened, and I'm going through some things, and it really helped me," right? And I'm like, "Wow," because you don't, you think about people just being sort of in their own lane in life, right? Like there's no problems, everything's good, but so many people have reached out, and it's powerful, because and I tell them all the time, it wasn't my story, I tell people all the time, I throw in my 2 cents and go on my long-winded rants sometimes on the podcast, but it's mostly the guests. But I have so much fun. I really do. And I enjoyed you. Maddie, let people know where they can find you.
All right. My personal is Maddie Andrews on Facebook. Send me a friend request. My nonprofit information in all socials is J&E Support Group. We also have a website, jesupport.org. Find us, find our resources, and please donate. We would like that too.
Donate, donate, donate. But also don't forget, Voice of the Voice.
The Voiceless. Yeah, check out Voices the Voiceless.
That's a new duo with Maddie and Pete vs. Anxiety Pod. Pete also has his own show, Pete vs. Anxiety Pod. He may have other shows too in the works.
Yeah.
Pete's always, I love Pete. We're gonna get Pete on here, but I'm afraid that if you put me, Pete, and the two of us, that no one's gonna get a word in edgewise with Pete and I, right? We're gonna just be yelling over each other, but it's gonna be fun, And so Rita, let people know where they can find you at.
Yep, so you can.
Sorry about that. I didn't mean to cut you off. Let them know about the book as well. Rita has a book. Rita's been
read it.
Rita's been doing great with her health, physical health, mental health. She's doing all that. She's doing great things. She has a book. She got Maddie back in the gym. She's kicking Maddie's ass, rowing and everything else. So if you need a personal trainer, that may be coming next, right?
Yeah, I defer all of my personal training stuff to Katie Rose. Like, I just help her out. But you can find me on Facebook as well. It's just Rita Marie Honeycutt. You can also check out my website. Is Fluff to Tough. My book is on there. There's an option on there if you're interested in having me as a guest speaker in person or on a podcast. You can find that on there as well. And then you can also check out Thrive RC Vets. The home of that program is actually at Thrive Fitness with Katie Rose. We started an adaptability program because you have this like kind of limbo period where you might have somebody who's in physical therapy, or you have the people that like go to the regular gym, but there's this little like gap in between where we're not really being served. And so that program is to help people that might have mobility challenges, but are past the doctor care, but not quite ready to enter the gym for themselves. So we also do that with our nonprofit.
And look, as I say, we have two unbelievable women that are kicking down the door, kicking ass, doing great things, right? Rita, I appreciate it. Maddie, the new co-host of Voice of the Voiceless, And then you got me, Uncle Jimmy, right? As I like to say, people say, "Why are you Uncle Jimmy?" And I always tell them, "You ever watch Uncle Buck? That's me. That's me. Just look at Uncle Buck. That's me. Everything I do, Got the cigar going, the hat, the crazy car smoke coming, and we just have fun, right? And I appreciate the two of you coming on. And like I said, stigma dies when we talk. One conversation chips away, and one check-in saves a life. So everybody out there, go follow Uncle Jimmy's podcast, which hopefully you already do. Follow Maddie. Maddie got her peer support group, and follow Rita. Rita got her book. Again, Rita's been kicking ass, and we're gonna end the show there. We're gonna get a schedule together for the three of us, plus the comic book. I'm not calling him the comic book guy. I don't even know if it's a guy or girl. Comic book person, right? All of a sudden this morning I woke up and I was gonna end the show, but I'm saying I woke up to this thread, and I'm like, so all of a sudden I see someone makes comic books, someone's a lawyer. Like I'm like, am I in trouble? Did I steal someone's comic books? Like there's a lawyer involved now? Like what is going on here, right? And then I'm just like, okay, I start breathing normal because I'm like, I see Maddie in the group. So I'm like, all right, Maddie might have tossed me in here. So okay, we're calm now. And then I got to work and I was able to read it. And I'm like, okay, I didn't steal any comic books. The lawyer's involved because he's a lawyer that does comics, And I'm just like, okay, now it's all coming together. So we're having fun as usual, right?
Right. And I appreciate you doing this.
I had so much fun as always. And I appreciate you two coming on, joining me. You know, I had a lot of fun as usual. And again, we're going to be back. We're going to be back. We're going to be on
Yes.
live. We're going to be on Facebook. We're going to learn how to link the two of you. So next time it just goes to your page as well. And we're just going to have fun with it. And we're just going to get on and be ourselves, right? That's one of the biggest things I've learned about mental health. I myself, right, was hiding behind a mask for so long with my depression and anxiety, right, where I wasn't myself. I was somebody else. Now that I came out of it, right, I can be my quirky, geeky self and have fun with it, right? It's almost like when you're a little kid and you promise yourself, like, hey, you're never gonna, you're always gonna be this, and I promise you this, and I promised my young self that, and then I went through life, you know. But I tell people this, right? I have a tattoo on my arm that says "Never Grow Old," and it has a globe on it that says "Never Grow Old." And I was about 28 years old when I went to get the tattoo, and I wanted to say "Never grow up," right? And the guy said to me, "You ain't no fucking Peter Pan. It's time for you to grow up," you know? And I was like, it still took me. So that was 28. So that's 13 years ago. It took me 13 years to realize it was time for me to grow up and, you know, not be Peter Pan anymore. So here I am, right? Here I am. And again, we're going to close the show. Go check out Rita. Go check out Maddie. Especially she's co-hosting with Pete versus Anxiety Pod on Voice of the Voiceless, and you can check out Uncle Jimmy's podcast. We're streaming everywhere. We're kicking the stick. We're kicking the doors down. We're breaking the stigma when it comes to mental health. We're gonna be there. If you guys know 988, great resource. And again, we could talk for hours on at a time. We're gonna end the show. We're gonna have the ladies back, and I appreciate all you joining in. You can email Maddie. You can email Rita. You can email me. You can find all of it what we talked about, and we'll reach back. We'll talk. So everybody have a great day. Peace and love, everybody. Peace and love. Thank you for joining us. Rita,
Bye.
Maddie. Bye-bye.
Peace
Bye-bye.
out.
YouTube Live, wherever we are. The White House, Donald Trump, wherever we're at.
Oh, gosh.